The anti-language gospel called John reveals the Johannine group to be an anti-society. That means that this group was an anti-societal collectivity established within a dominant society, first century Israel, to be a conscious alternative to it. The anti-language gospel of John is just like all anti-language, in that it was consciously employed for strategic ends, defensively and offensively. Defensively, the Gospel of John worked to maintain a social reality through group cohesion. But offensively, John resisted and protested the world, which was the dominant society of first century Judean Israel. Significantly, many anti-language words and sentences lack equivalent meanings in the language of the dominant society. So sorry, Greek proficient Bible readers. This means that anti-language statements like, "I and the Father are one," and "Truly, truly, I say to you, before Abraham was, I am," were socially meaningless in the Greek used by Hellenist Israelites. For example, Paul and Mark. Just as socially meaningless would be the Johannine identification of the Galilean peasant and day laborer turned folk healer, Jesus of Nazareth, with the pre-existing Word of God become flesh. The anti-language of John was truly maverick. Indeed, it is a gospel from outer space. Paul, Mark, James, Matthew, Luke, and other New Testament authors wouldn't know what to do with Johannine anti-language. It's the same with the anti-language of our own contemporary anti-societies. Society at large finds no value in treasured gang positions like king, don, and general. Of course, we can and do understand these expressions, and we can adequately translate them. But the anti-language propositions won't function as language with any verifiable social meaning in the dominant language's semantic system. And this is true also of the anti-language gospel called John and its relationship to the Greek used by Hellenist Israelites in the first century. It applies to contemporary Israel's religious language also. And in particular, this applies to the language of other New Testament Jesus groups as well. Significantly, in all non-Johannine New Testament writings, you will not find anything like John chapter 1 verse 1, John chapter 1 verse 14, John chapter 8 verse 58, and John chapter 10 verse 30. Eventually, the Johannine anti-society dissolved. Its anti-language gospel survived and has passed down to us, but it was inevitably re-contextualized. Even though the anonymous author of John wrote his anti-language gospel for members of his anti-society, that isn't how his document has been understood for the past 2 millennia. Traditionally, words and sentences in John were understood according to ordinary Greek. Therefore, the anti-language expression, "I and the Father are one," ordinarily is understood as if Jesus is giving a straightforward description of his own self-understanding. For certain, this was not the case. How did this problem arise? Anti-language only makes sense in its anti-society in conflict with the dominant society. Therefore, once the Johannine anti-society dissolved and the conflict ended, the gospel began to be read among ordinary ancient Mediterranean believers. Soon after, the anonymous author of the fourth gospel became St. John the Theologian, providing a cornucopia of new information about the nature of Jesus, about which all other New Testament authors were oblivious.